Bienvenidos a esta presentación del subjuntivo. This presentation will discuss using the subjunctive mood with adjectival and adverbial clauses. The subjunctive mood part 1 talked about how you've been using verbs in the indicative mood thus far. The indicative mood talks about things that happened, actual facts, actual events. The present, preterite, imperfect, future, and conditional tenses are part of the indicative mood. The subjunctive is used to talk about things that may or may not happen, things that are doubtful or uncertain, wants, requests, and demands. It's used with verbs of emotion and with impersonal expressions. Part 1 talked about weirdo, and these are the situations in which we use the subjunctive. Subjunctive with adjectival clauses. Tengo un maestro que habla mucho. Habla is in the indicative. The indicative is needed here because the subject of the adjective clause exists. I have a teacher that talks a lot. The teacher actually exists, so the indicative is needed. No tengo un maestro que hable mucho. The subjunctive is needed here because the subject of the adjective clause does not exist. This is a negative referent in which the subject of the adjective clause is referring to someone or something that does not exist. I do not have a teacher that talks a lot. And another use of the subjunctive is quiero un maestro que hable mucho. I want a teacher that talks a lot. That person may or may not exist. This is a hypothetical situation, and since the person may or may not exist, since we don't know of the person's existence, we need the subjunctive hable. The subjunctive with adverbial clauses. The acronym ESCAPA stands for the following phrases: en caso de que, sin que, con tal de que, antes de que, para que, a menos que. If you have a sentence with one of these phrases, the subjunctive is always required. Another acronym, SHAPED, a lot of these you've already used in the past, is always used with an infinitive. Many of these shaped phrases are escapa phrases, but notice none of them have the word que after that. We can see the difference in these two sentences. Llámame para que tú vayas conmigo. Call me so that you can go with me. Versus llámame para ir conmigo. Call me in order to go with me. In the first sentence, it's almost as if there's an invitation. Call me so that you can go with me. The second sentence simply says, call me in order to go with me, which means the way to go with me is by calling me. I'm not necessarily inviting you to do so. The more difficult adverbial clauses are matched. If you see a matched phrase, the matched phrases are mientras, aunque, así que, tan pronto como, cuando, hasta que, en cuanto, and después de que. If you do see one of these phrases, there's a decision to be made. It depends on the context of the independent clause. That is to say, it depends on the context of the clause that does not contain these phrases. In this first example, mientras yo esté aquí, háblame. Háblame is the deep independent clause, rather, and it is a command. Since we have a matched phrase with a command in the independent clause, the subjunctive esté is required. If I tell you, talk to me, you haven't talked to me yet, that's why I'm telling you to do so. That action hasn't happened and the subjunctive is required. In the second example, mientras yo estoy aquí, tú me hablas muchísimo. The independent clause Tú me hablas muchísimo means you talk to me too much. You talk to me too much is in the present tense. I'm stating something that you do. Since this is something that you do and it's not a command or the future or uncertain or anticipatory, the indicative estoy is needed. Cuando ellos tengan el dinero, van a comprarlo. The independent clause in this sentence says van a comprarlo. The future is used. Since the future is used, the action has not happened yet. A matched phrase with a future requires a subjunctive, tengan. Cuando ellos tienen dinero, lo compran. When they have money, they buy it. They buy it is stating something that they do, and since there is no uncertainty and it happens, the indicative tienen is needed. Aunque no haga buen tiempo, pienso ir al picnic. The independent clause, pienso ir al picnic, states that I plan to go to the picnic. That is an anticipatory action. I plan to go tells us that I haven't gone yet. It may happen in the future. While pienso is not in the future tense, the act of planning to do something is anticipatory, and the subjunctive haga is required. Although it is not nice out, I plan to go to the picnic. Aunque hace buen tiempo, no voy al picnic states that although it is nice out, I'm not going to the picnic. The independent clause, I am not going to the picnic, is a clear statement of what you are not going to do. It is not the future, it is not a command, and there is certainty to that. So since it is certain, the indicative is required, hace. Practiquemos. Yo necesito una profesora que sea simpática. The subjunctive is required because I need a professor that is nice. I do not know if she exists. Antes de que tú vengas, yo voy a llamarte. This is an escapa phrase. Automatic subjunctive is required. Cuando ellas van al teatro, siempre cenan antes. When they go to the theater, they always eat dinner before. Since they always eat dinner before, that's not a command, that's not the future, and it is certain that they always eat dinner before. Van is the indicative. Cuando nosotros recibamos el dinero, podemos escribir el cheque. When we receive the money, we will be able to write the check. Since we will be able to write the check is anticipatory, it hasn't happened yet, and cuando is a matched, the subjunctive recibamos is required. Para que funcione bien, el coche necesita reparaciones. Para que is an escapa phrase, and the the subjunctive rather, is required automatically. Tan pronto como Rosa llegue, pensamos salir. Pensamos salir is we plan to leave. We haven't left yet. It's an anticipatory action. Tan pronto como Rosa is a matched phrase. Since we have a matched phrase with an anticipatory action, llegue, the subjunctive is required. Después de que tú lo compres, muéstramelo. Since después de que is a matched phrase and muéstramelo is a command, compres, the subjunctive is required. After you buy it, show it to me. Mi mamá no encuentra un mecánico que pueda arreglar su coche. My mom cannot find a mechanic that can fix her car. Since the mechanic does not exist, the subjunctive of poder is required. Antes de comer, necesitas lavarte las manos. Before eating, you need to wash your hands. Antes de is a shaped, which requires the infinitive always. Sí, yo conozco a la persona que habla francés. Since you know the person that speaks French, the person exists, the subjunctive is not required. Gracias por ver esta presentación y te deseo mucho éxito.